American Born Chinese is the first graphic novel to win the Printz Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature. It was also a finalist for the National Book Award, another first for a graphic novel. Did you find the graphic novel format to be an effective way for Gene Yang to tell a story? Why or why not? What did you like and what did you dislike? Was it easier to understand than a traditional novel or more difficult to explain?
I think the way that this book is laid out is perfect for the type of story that it tells. A specific example of this is on page 220 when we find that the Monkey King's son is Wei Chen and that the Monkey King himself is Qin Ke. I think explaining that without pictures and just words would be a lot more difficult if it wasn't for the way that the book was laid out and being able to tell like the three different stories and then connecting them together at the end. And I also think the use of pictures on page 76 is a good example of how it helps us as a reader, just with the pillars and how the monkey peed on the pillars. I think that would have been a lot more confusing if it was in words and not in a picture.
I said the same exact thing, pretty much. I had an example on page 48 when Qin Ke first arrived. The main part of this whole story was portraying so many different stereotypes. And when he first arrived, they were able to do that by using the pictures. They could have the drawing of him in his traditional gown and like the takeout boxes that he was carrying his luggage in, and they just had so many things going on in one picture, and it was a lot easier to show that through the picture rather than using words.
Yeah, I agree. Well, like it's an effective way, and some things would be definitely more confusing. And I think a reason why I like the pictures is it kind of like leaves more up to your imagination too. Like on page 79, when we see, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the name. They're like God person was walking, and he like told the monkey to walk with him. We kind of had that discussion about like there are two ways to interpret why the bridge magically materialized. And then I think one reason I don't like it though is probably like there's just so much more to interpret. Like you gotta pay attention to panel size and the border and captions. So like if you don't wanna have to pay attention and interpret, it's probably not as good of a style for you.
Well, I thought that like what you're saying about having the panel size and the borders and all that stuff, or like facial expressions, actually made it easier because you could kind of like explain stuff without having to like really explain it, I guess. Like it's kind of hard to say, but like for example, the facial expressions, like you could tell how they were feeling just from their facial expression. You wouldn't have to describe it at all. Like you just drew the face differently.
I agree with that too. I wrote about like how like the pictures like indirectly tell us things. About like on page 30, we see that Jin is rolling his eyes after his teacher says that he moved from China. And like this kind of shows us that he gets that a lot, like how he's Asian and that people just assume that he's from China, but like they didn't say that, but we were able to assume that from the picture. And I also think that like with being in a graphic novel, like the panel size showed the importance of them. Like on page 105, we see like a panel like the whole length of a page, and it was Amelia saying yes to him asking her to hang out. And like this was very important because he really liked her and like that was what he really wanted.
So I agree with like all of that, and like what kept me engaged with the book was like the pictures, and like it like actually like showed what happened. So I on page 118, it showed like motion and stuff, and like also it like made the book be not as confusing because like it jumped from like story to story. So like I was talking about the laughter on like the Qin Ke story. So that showed me that it was on a sitcom. So like it kept like the whole book without being confusing.
Yeah, I think a lot of things in graphic novels are like kind of subconscious. Like you take up like the emotions and the panel size and everything. Like you just naturally like take that and you don't think about, oh, this panel is big, this is important. Like it's more of like this is a big picture and getting like more detail and like it stays in your mind more efficiently because it's bigger and it's visual. See like on page like 159, like you can see the monk, I don't remember his name, but the monk is like really tired and he's like distressed and like it's a big panel, so you can see like it's important and it makes a statement, but it's not like you're explicitly trying to process that.
Those subconscious things though, I feel like made it more difficult sometimes because I'm not necessarily used to reading books like this, and I don't necessarily, when there's a lot of things going on in certain pictures and stuff, I don't pick up on all the like little messages that they have within the picture, and that's what I thought made it more difficult to read this than a regular book, because when I'm reading a book with just words, I read all of the words, That way I take in all the information, but when I'm looking at a picture, sometimes I don't look at everything, and I can miss some things.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. It also made it easier to tell his story though, is because he could have multiple stuff going on in the same panel. You know, he didn't just have to explain everything on its own when something was happening. Like, Shannon was talking about the one where the kid is new to school, and like you're able to see like he's new to school and like she's introducing him, and the teacher's also rolling her eyes, so it's like there's multiple things going on at the same time. You don't have to explain it all.
Yeah, going off of that, a regular novel just wouldn't have done the story justice. There were, like Joe said, visual pieces that you needed to see.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stereotypes used were very like visual things. So like, and then like describe, like Joe was talking about earlier about describing versus like a facial expression you could see versus like using he appeared angry like 5 times. It's probably a little more like descriptive and like less repetitive as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I feel like if it was like a regular novel, it would have been like really wordy, and then I feel like there would be a lot of room to interpret, and I feel like there kind of shouldn't be in this book because like I don't know, it'd be difficult to like try and imagine like what Chinky looks like, and I feel like everyone would have different ways of seeing him, and like that's fine. But for this novel, I feel like it was important that like you got to see what he looked like. And like it was cool like how different like things could happen, and like on page 150 and like 151 and like the Monkey King is like beating up like the 2 monsters or whatever, like there's no words like in speech bubbles or anything, and you still know what's going on.
Going off that, like on page 214 when Jin like transforms to Danny and he just like wakes up and looks in the mirror and he's like Danny all of a sudden, like I feel like that'd be really hard to explain with like words, but it was like easy to see with pictures kind of.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point about it, is like when he turned into Danny, you immediately knew, like you kind of connected that he was Danny from the other parts of the book, that it would have been, like as soon as you saw him, you knew that it was the same character.
I agree with Morgan said about the speech bubbles. I think that like he kind of like he was talking to himself sometimes. Like they use like inner voices like in page 103 when he was talking about if the other guy's name and the girl he liked were stuck in a room and he was wishing that they weren't stuck in the same room.